Having seen what the Allies bid in the last couple times, I realized if I'm going to get a jump start on anything with the French, I need to bid real high. Higher than I can possibly bid and still take attacks on both fronts. So I did. And why is it so important? Well, it's important because I left the English here with just one unit. They're kind of beat up here as well. If I can get a dual turn, I can break one of the two lines. I can't break them both. And this was a good turn because the Allies didn't draw a lot of points on it. By the way, the Austrian variable reinforcements, I made a roll for that. At the beginning, it only comes in on a 2. They're always very rare. The number here is the number of units or strength points, I'm not sure which, but I think it's units, that are generated when you roll. And so we keep putting them off. I think they succeed only one time though, but I may be wrong about that. They may be able to accumulate forces throughout. So my initial bid is 11 for the Allies, 13 for the French. That means I may not be able to get an attack if I don't get initiative, and I gotta spend the points, but that means the French are at +2 on their die roll, but the Allies are at +1 due to having initiative last turn. And then we have leadership effects, which is going to be here. The French, well, that's going to be another 2-point swing because the French still are using cartel. Unless this is the turn. Okay, so if this, the reinforcements aren't in yet, so I'm making sort of a command decision. If this is the turn where the command switches, they're still not going to get the bonus for that. Okay, so let's see. I was at +1 for the French. Now I'm essentially at -1 for them. And if I don't succeed, it's okay because I just won't attack this turn. And I do not. The English are going, or the Allies are going to get the initiative, which means they can smooth out their lines again. This was my one opportunity at this point to kind of try to bust the line that I've been weakening. And now I just have to spend those points and bring in the new troops. Notably, the Allies aren't bringing more troops in. They would have been able, well, maybe they still can, to buy some reinforcements. Without having reinforcements to buy, they may not have needed to save as many points as they have, but they've been feeling like, well, 11 points is nice. Initiative should have actually come after the reinforcements. Crappies. But with the low points, I went with the 11 bid, so we're good. And the French could use more units earlier, but I don't think they certainly couldn't have bought them and made their big bid, and they can't reverse they can't use the points that they were saving for the attack to bring them in. So nobody brought in anything. But actually, yes, I do have to check here. I have to Gua. That's not my commander-in-chief. My commander doesn't come in until here. My better overall commander. I had to choose where to spend the ops points before I took the turn, before I took the die roll. In which case, I would have spent the eastern ones instead of the western ones. This is kind of important because the east is out of ops now, and they would have liked to continue extending their line towards the hookup. The west can do it, but I left 5 for an attack, and I actually didn't count in my Napoleon points. I could have gone a couple more. Oops. And the Allies decide to tighten their lines. They give up these two spaces here, allowing them to put more units where it really matters. French aren't attacking these. They don't gain them anything. They'll occupy them, I'm sure. But overall, they were just nice to haves, perhaps. The only real reason they're nice to have is if I could retake this space. And I've given up on any hope of that. I am keeping this extension out here. And perhaps even more foolishly, I'm holding on to locations like this, where I can place an artillery. And that's all I have there. But if the French want to spend an entire attack knocking that gun out, they can go wild on it. And this, for the same kind of reason. That it provides some fire. This one's more questionable. But the point is, the reason that I have this line out here is because of those forts. If it wasn't for those forts, I wouldn't be where I am. So it's pretty damn hard to convince myself to abandon them. I think it would be wiser overall to do so. But again, it's tough to admit that I built the wrong line. I should have built a line maybe across here instead, which would have given me more redoubts for the second line of defense. Oh well. And whenever I say, oh well, you know, I'm pissed as hell at myself. It's just, I'm in a better mood than I usually am. We'll see what the French do with their action. They could still launch an attack, but with that tightening of the line, it's just getting harder and harder. And well, with the failure on the initiative roll, I didn't do any attacks with the West Wing. I did set up for one. I was intending to take Redoubt Saint Andre. I took this space with one of my points, spent the rest of my points converting all my Bonaparte batteries to mobile batteries. I figure I'm going to need that if I break through here, because I'm going to have to pull them around. At least some of them, probably some of them I could leave bombarding the Petite Rod, but, you know, whatever. I could have saved some of those points to get a better chance at getting the attack off. I only took a 50-50 shot at it. And with all the new Bonaparte batteries in play, I'm generating a whole lot of ammo, which meant that I actually fired this, which I've got marked, and a couple others, the 3 and the 2 here at the Petite Rod. Well, I tried to. I think I got a grand total of a 2-point firing shot on there, which means I'd only get a victory point on a 4. Which obviously is not terribly important one way or the other. I'm at my 19 ammo right now, which means most turns I'm probably going to be firing my guns one way or another. The best way to do the firing is probably in pulses, which is to say unload a lot of shots to get you on a good table, and then I think you're allowed multiple shots from them, so then I could roll for further shots. The other option would be to just fire them on the, hey, do I get a shot or not, table right off, but that cancels out my growth. So it's worth firing the guns as well as using the stored ammo, as well as making rolls for additional ammo, or for additional firing opportunities in order to get in here. However, I may be using some of those guns to try to break up one or both of the lines. This line has gotten really rough on me though, and I'm kind of looking at, okay, if I can breach this line and make a threat on this, that kind of makes this less important. I really only need to take one of those 2 fortification locations. There's some advantages to taking them, but largely in terms of what the tenuous, I don't remember quite how it works. It's funny because I just cannot remember the rules here, but if I can make those into tenuous, let's see, maybe it's in the evacuation triggers. I don't remember where the hell it is. Is that on page 24? Yeah. Okay, no, it's under the rods, and there's no looking into that. So, you know, this is the thing, is quite a bit in this game. If you care to find a particular rule, and in this case, I probably just don't care enough. You need to do a lot of lookup, and a lot of times I would rather not, and then I catch myself in trouble. So I'm just not finding that rule, and that's no big shock. And you know, it's kind of important because this is the goal to the game, but it wasn't on my mind before, and now here it'll be under rod control. Excellent. Why didn't I see that? So I have to take one of the peninsulas and then score a hit on the rod, and then that'll drop it to tenuous, which means I get the double values off of them. And I could do it just through victory points. Alternatively, I could also just build up enough hits to force the evacuation trigger, but none of that works. The evacuation trigger at least doesn't work unless I take one of these 2 suckers. And those are not easy to take, you know. even if I get myself in a situation where I'm bottled up in them, this one in particular is pretty defensible because of this hill here. This one less so, and that's where I'm cursing myself for not having enough entrenchments, because I think this line is most likely to break out of the 2 right now. It's just too long, and this sucker is the weak spot in my overall defense. So my prediction is that the Allies should lose this one because of the screw-ups I've made. But the French are screwing up pretty royally too, so I guess maybe it comes out in the wash. Unfortunately for me, or for you, but certainly for my ability to concentrate, I've taken the last day and a half, almost 2 days off from playing this. I finished up my Dragon Age Inquisition game. Very good, but I should have waited until, you know, the cheap packs are out with everything in it, because I might have a computer that could actually run it effectively. I had to overclock to get it running well. Anyway, so I'm a little bit fuzzier than I was, but I'm also approaching with a little bit more elan. To start with, we brought some reinforcements in, and the Bonaparte batteries, again, because I haven't been taking areas with Bonaparte batteries, I can kind of place them wherever the hell I like. So I dropped a couple in here. Now those cost me some activation points from Napoleon, but I've been screwing up all along. I caught myself. I've been just assuming, oh, he's always got 2. No, those go up and up and up, and he doesn't roll for them, but they continually get larger and larger. So he'll be able to use more of his points, either to bring batteries in, to mobilize them, to move them around, or to launch attacks with himself in them. Anyway, the rest of the points came in pretty much as is. The Allies didn't spend any. I don't know who the hell these guys are. They could have spent some Spanish points to get some guys 2 turns ahead, but they didn't really feel the terrible need to. They're throwing most of their points in on a bid, 18 points. The French, more or less, have been completely cowed. They figure as long as the Allies have a lot of points, they're never going to get the initiative, and they don't terribly need it. Putting the batteries here, the Allied line is a little too wide here, so I should be able to bust through where I want to. The question is, of course, where do I want to? Do I want to run my main connection through here, which is kind of, you know, takes up the least spaces, or do I want to kind of run it closer into the line, maybe try to, you know, steal a space here and here, and end up with a tighter line, which I'll probably end up getting anyway. That'll cost me less activations to get through. And within that, also, there's the interesting aspect of this space, which the Allies, given how far out their line is, really would love to have. But that's not a, I don't know, this is still not a terribly hard space to attack, because you can drop 15 points of units in here, move 10 in for an attack, move more in without any cost if you have your lines set up, move 10 more in for an attack. So any space that has a number is kind of easier to attack than any space that doesn't. The hard part is how many guys can you cluster into that area? How rough is the terrain that you're actually attacking? Not so much how rough is the surrounding terrain that may not be particularly easy to establish yourself in. All right, let's see. So the initiative is clearly going to the Allies, and I have not rolled for my Austrians, which I should have done. This is turn 10, so now it's a 2 or a 3 brings them in. And they don't get anything. Yeah, they keep getting to roll as they go on. Now, there was something else I wanted to consider. So I don't think I could bring these Neapolitan units in because I didn't, or Sardinian units in, because I didn't have any Sardinian points. And that's why those weren't activated early. And the Spaniards, these are Swiss. I don't have any Swiss points. I wonder if I did that correctly. I am not going to back it up, but I would have probably bought those extra guys if I could have. That's a 9. I think that's going to be rule 9. Yep. In some of them it doesn't seem to be correct. So buying them early, it says only those units designated to arrive up to 3 turns ahead. I don't know, is that in the damn playbook? I don't remember. Yeah, I don't see any indication of that. So I don't know where that is. I guess it's that the Bonaparte units can't be brought in early. I'm not quite sure why this is worded the way it is. But it doesn't really say where you can spend the points from. So I've been kind of assuming I've got to have them for the right nation. That puts you, that gives you an actual limitation, because the Allies really have more points than they need. Anyway, 18 points is most of what they have. 17. 10. So that gives me the 4 points that I like to have, so that I can conceivably drop more troops off here. If I somehow lost the initiative. I didn't lose the initiative, so I'm going to get to reapportion the Allied line. That's probably going to turn out fine. there's not much that I can do about it. The French are eventually going to be able to breach this sector over here. I'm not so sure over here, and these Bonaparte batteries are over here to support a possible attack over in these areas, to give me more flexibility as to where I want the front line to be. So it's not the thing I meant to discuss that I couldn't remember. The thing I meant to discuss that I couldn't remember had to do with the significant victory. Now, I've forgotten about this before, but basically you lose a d6 points if you've been significantly defeated before. Well, this should be significant defeat, not victory. So the French took it before, and they lost a d6 worth of their ops points, which I took off their eastern side because I think, well, honestly, I don't know if I want to take them off the eastern side, and my plug is not working here. There we go. Because there's more I can do over here than what I can do over on the west. I feel like this barrier has just screwed me. The one that I was cursing for using up so many of my defensive line. Well, this one used up quite a bit too. I think you probably can't build as far out as I have everywhere. Screw-ups with the French have probably made up for some of the screw-ups with the Allies that I've made, but I don't think that holding this wide line is at all plausible. You know, these are going to break. There's nothing to defend them. This has no redoubt. It's going to, you know, there's just too many weak points on the line for me to hold this indefinitely. Whereas if I had a tougher line built maybe through here, this would take 1, 2, 3 redoubts here to hold this, right? And instead I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 over here to have that shit. There goes my electricity again. To hold that line. Now I only am using 4, but I guess the salient point is I could have this covered and have an extra redoubt to drop in here or here. Still more than I want it. I want to use up. This one's essentially unimportant. I can give this space up. It doesn't matter. So this redoubt could be back here. And I've got a free one here as a replacement there. Now, the Allies could put 2 redoubts in one location, and that allows them to concentrate more troops in defense if that was an absolutely key location. And that could be important here as a long-term block for those. I honestly think that if the British decide to defend the 2 peninsula forts, absolutely, that they can do so. How much does that matter? I'm not sure, because there's a lot of victory points to be gotten outside of those. Of course, if the Allies get knocked down to those 2 anyway in the course of a game, it doesn't make a difference whether they were set up at them, or set up with that as an intention early on, or if they play it out longer. So in terms of a competitive exercise, I don't think this is a game that you're going to go to again and again. There's going to be an optimal defense that the Allies can come up with. This might be it here. I'm not so sure it's not. That's deadly if the French can't break through. Now, but that's not to say that the optimal defense, though, is necessarily the best defense. So, for example, the optimal defense might be to double up in here. But then the best defense might actually be to give yourself this extra space here, because on a really unlucky situation you might break here. Or the alternative, by which I mean the optimal might mean you lose less games if you double up here. But by having this, you can win more significantly, and if it does hold. It's just the French could conceivably force this line early in the game, and I'm beginning to feel like the time for that is drifting away. But there's more at risk by extending your lines out as far as I did. Less than optimal attack by the French. Let's see what we got here. New forces. I sent them to a large extent into here and mobilized all my batteries so that I can shift them down where they can bombard. I got too many points. I'm not sure I'm going to be using them all on that. Some of the points are going to be used over here on this fight, which we'll get to, and I can play it out in detail. That both frustrates me, and I've shown you some of it, always with errors, but I think if I'm on camera, I'm going to make errors more likely. This guy has an attrition rating. Probably shouldn't. Can't think of any reason he would have one there. Okay. So I gained some new territories, though. I dismantled the redoubt here. I captured this fort. And that gives me... So you'll notice I'm allowing the Allies, if they want these spaces, to take them. They don't really matter to me unless I'm planning on launching an attack from them, and they're not terribly good not having, you know, not allowing more than 15 strength points. My one attack that I made some extension over here to grab another territory just to straighten it out. I'm not sure which direction I'm going to go. I was kind of hoping to launch an attack into here and cut across this way. But given that I didn't get an attack capability, I rolled a 6 over on this side after spending my 5 points. I figure, well, I'll try to stretch out and get that hook up as quickly as possible. Even before I can combine the two wings, having them connected means that I can kind of shift the focus so, you know, forces from the east wing can stretch out and take important locations on the west, or vice versa. The vice versa is less important because I'm going through, you know, a lot of effort to spread out across that territory. Over here I'm launching one major attack, but a lot of guys didn't make it in. They still have to individually make a quality check, and you have to roll for each unit, and I just ended up not getting much in there, and I'm gonna have to fight. Well, there's not a whole hell of a lot here, but there's a lot more than I've got coming in. On the bright side, I've got a lot of artillery here, which I can spend the ammo to ensure that they get to fire. And then if I'm around for the second round, I left my leader back here to bring additional troops in. I could have brought the leader in, but that doesn't help me because I'm outnumbered. So we'll see. I might actually want to drop another leader down there, though, if I've got another one available. I don't have a lot of leaders on the east wing. The west wing has tons of leaders, this whole pile here, and they're more or less expected to do a lot of the fighting. But they have the best leaders, Victor, Napoleon. I don't want to risk moving them through no man's land. I could do that, but instead I'm focusing on trying to breach the line here and hoping I can make the connection through this direction, at which point I can transfer leaders safely. So we shall see whether or not I can take this. It's highly unlikely, and then I'm also probably going to do some bombardment with extra points that I have available. Well, we got the good magic roll. Snake Eyes. Snake Eyes is good because it causes the general rout. And that happened here. I've only committed one artillery in each battle, so I didn't have to pay as much ammo. So this was at a 1-to-1 attack. It managed to get that, and by the results of that, this is going to be not a major victory, but it is going to be a victory, and the British line has, or the Allied line has been penetrated. The fact that it's a victory means I no longer will be taking the penalties, but it doesn't give me a victory point, if I'm correct. Just have to make sure. Nope, only significant victories do. But that's going to be a major, major factor to collapsing this line. Not absolute, because I didn't even have a redoubt here, so I can fall back to here, and it just means I can keep giving ground there. And I'm getting more troops, so maybe I can fill this in. It's connected to Toulon, so I don't even need ops points to move stuff through there, because I have an unbroken line going through. So it's not as big a victory as I had hoped for. But it is an important step forward, I think. A little issue came here. I took 2 losses on the Allied forces. I have a temporary and a permanent, because there's no artillery directly here. Ooh, I get a pursuit as well. So if I assign the temporary to this, it's going to convert to a permanent and die. If I can assign both of them to this, this dies, and that's a better unit than this. So what I have to do really is to assign them like this. Otherwise, if I killed this unit, that would be a major victory, because I would have done 2 permanent losses to one side. And we have the leader loss check. Let's just get that out of the way. And the route, I think, let's see how that's handled under the cavrals. Yeah. Nope. Pursuit is somewhere here. Under combat or under retreats. Attacker's cav held in reserve get a free attack. The number of casualties will be 1d3 for each cav unit plus the SP of those. So I may wipe out more of the force. The whole force is retreating though, so I can certainly take casualties on this big bad unit. And I read that as a 2. I know some people read it as a 3. What I do is 1 through 3 are the number they are, and then I subtract 3 from the higher numbers. So that's going to be 2 more losses, and one of them will be temp and one will be permanent. That's enough to make it a major victory because I did 2 permanent losses. So we get some nice shifts there. And I checked leader loss, and that wasn't there. Nice play for the French there. Now, I have the opportunity to fire up to 19 points of firepower coming from here. Oh wait, maybe these are not enough. Nope, they are. Into the petite rod. 19 is a nice table. That could do up to 4 hits. That would be 4 victory points and 4 evacuation trigger. Now, evacuation trigger doesn't matter if I don't gather this, but victory points are sort of the final way of determining marginal victory. So they are relatively important in terms of, hey, how well positioned to do things if you can't force the English out early. How do you force them out again? Yeah, the evacuation trigger. And therefore, there is something appealing about throwing a lot of firepower in. I don't have 19 ammo, however, and also, more importantly to me, I can get doubled hits if I manage to get one of these. So I don't want to commit my firepower quite yet. I might be able to force the Allies out if I do things properly. So I think what I want to do is try to balance out what the proper amount is. Now, like I said, I have 19 points of guns here, I think. 5, 11, 12, 19. I'm going to be generating 3 points of fire. But I got to kind of balance to keep this as high as I can. So that next turn, if I need the ammo, I have it, right? Here I just committed the ammo to firing. So 19 is, well, I can't fire automatically on the 19 table. So what if I go down to, say, the 14 table, which is nowhere near as impressive, but it's still pretty good. Well, if I fire 14 out of my 19, 20, 21, 22 shots, I have the ammo for 14 available. And then I can re-roll to see how many get a second shot, which will allow me another roll on a lesser table. So if I fire 14, That means I'd be at 3 plus those 3. I'd be at 6 left. So I look down then to the next column. What's that going to get me? Well, what about the 9 column? Because I'd like to keep my ammo as high as possible. The 9 column's, you know, getting weaker. It doesn't have this big 3 kicking around in the double sixes. Well, 9 shots would mean I have 8, 11 that are being charged back up. So 9 would drop me to 8, and I'd get 11. That would put me to 19. So that's the number I want to go with. I want to hit a column level. So let's see. We've got 5. Let's see if we can make 9. We've got 5 and 4 is 9. So we'll fire those. And we mark them. And this is really the first time we're doing real fire. We drop this to 8. And now we have a 9 shot on this table. With a 3, that is pretty optimal. We get 2 more hits, or 2 hits. That gives us 2 victory points and 2 evacuation trigger points. Once that gets up to 9, that means the British are really ready to withdraw as soon as one of these falls. So, now we get to roll again for the units that fired, which are these 2 and that one. So let's roll for them. It's 1 and 3, I think. Yeah. So on a 1 or 2, they each fire. First one, nope. Second one, nope. Third one, no. Oh well. And now, after some other, you know, bookkeeping type process, we count these, and I've got 5, 6. Let's see if I did things right. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 points. That actually gets us to 20. We can't hit 20. I must have miscalculated somewhere. I probably forgot this one, which I should have thrown in. Well, no, because I'd be on a column, right? If I threw it in, it would have a chance of maybe, you know, getting me to a better column on a reroll or something, but no biggie there. And now I think I'm done with everything except the final attrition phase, where I just, you know, basically look up and see, oh look, 3 points for the West and 4 for the East that I have to allocate to stuff. And that's always kind of painful. It's hard to do the bluffing of the initial bidding in a solo game, but I can kind of fudge it pretty easily. For the Allies, it was absolutely imperative that they win the initiative, because they've got this force here. I'm not sure if this attrition marker should be there. They got it from the retreat. It doesn't affect them. But those attrition markers, only friendly ones are removed. No, remove attrition markers, 30.6. I'm not sure if it's all attrition markers that come off, in which case their retreat didn't cost them anything. Yeah, I think that goes away. Which I find kind of disturbing. I feel like maybe they should take a movement attrition check because of it or whatever, but it's a minor concern. I did find I forgot to bring O'Hare in last turn, or O'Hara. He's now in overall command of the Brits. I don't think anyone's removed for him. Anyway, and we're coming up on the point where, what's his name? Dugommier will take command of the French, and he'll equalize the initiative rolls. But right now, the Allies have a couple extra points on the initiative roll to boot. And given the importance of this location, the French have decided to spend nothing. And, you know, there's some room for fudging there, or for some leeway. The Allies, if they had something they really wanted to do, could not bid all their points, but they really don't. They're pretty well off. They might have wanted to save a point or two for this. No, to reduce the effect of that attrition check had it been in play. But, yeah, and we'll be pushing on. This is going to be yet another British initiative turn. Although, actually, I screwed up. There shouldn't have been as many points because of this again. I keep forgetting about that. The Allies would have been down 1 point, which wouldn't have made the bid possible. The French were looking at, they could blow their 8, 9, 10. I brought in another Bonaparte battery, not a very potent one, I think, up here. Now, when those come in, I'm not sure whether or not they should. They get a free redoubt when they come in. But I think that may only be if they're in the right location. So I've just been bringing them in. It's not that big a deal. The firepower coming from the rods so far hasn't done much at all. And I've been able to recover any losses. So, yeah, the Brits are going to have a chance. They bought some new reinforcements for the turn. I don't think they can buy the Swiss because they don't have any command points for the Swiss. No Austrians came in, but they'll be able to at least, you know, throw some real units in there that aren't all damaged to help defend it. Now, they could actually put a leader and put those units somewhere and hope that they can recover as well. So they have some options in hand about that. The Allies strengthen and reestablish this line, moving these guys into Toulon itself to recover. I could do recovery outside of Toulon, and it might actually be wiser to have the additional forces established somewhere. But that starts making complications for me, because then I have to worry more about, well, how many troops do I have total in a place like this? If I make something, you know, if I put the entire pile in here, well, this then becomes, you know, impenetrable, great. But it's pretty solid as it is, with just this finger pushing into the defenses, where I think the French have to find another way to kind of break things. In a lot of ways, this didn't do me a hell of a lot of good, just as this wouldn't do me much good, because there's, you know, fallback positions back here. It's if I break the redoubts here, or if I push it another space. Pushing it another space stretches the line some more and makes me really have to question if I want to defend this whole position here. Nothing of any excitement happening over there. And now, I guess the English got good recovery. They caused a little bit of damage actually over here with their, you know, every turn I'm doing the bombardment when I remember. Which is basically, I missed some early on, I think. The bombardment from the ships out back to shore. Once again, the French ended up attacking in this location. They were repulsed this time. However, the Allies took the larger losses. Thus, it wasn't a victory and didn't get rid of the significant defeat issue. I was once again unable, even though I spent my 5, got my big roll of a 6, to take offensive actions over here. I converted one of my guns to mobile. That's really about it. Ooh, I could have converted this one as well. This was a new one. So I'll have more capabilities there as it grows. I again bombarded the Petite Rod. No effect this time, you know. You got to get kind of lucky to get a shot off that works when you're down here on the table. As you get higher up on the table, it gets a little more likely, and you're more likely to do more damage, which is, of course, appealing, but I want to keep my ammo stocked up. I don't remember. I did some numerical analysis last time when I played. On the values here, you of course want to do the petite rod rather than the grand rod, and you want to, there's particular columns that are good. I'm not worrying about that, I'm worrying about conserving ammo, but if you crunch the numbers, there are probably columns that give you a slight edge, up to an extra, you know, expected point per turn, perhaps even. Well, maybe not that high, but the charts are not absolutely balanced. I was hoping for the breakthrough here. Again, I was hoping to be able to launch an attack over there. Neither one came about, though. Here in turn 12, I caught up, forgot about the Royal Louis unit that had a permanent hit on it that got recovered a few turns back. Who knows when it would have recovered, or if, under Republican control, but whatever. According to the rules, it should recover. It should have recovered at that same point. So we miss things. This is the turn where Carteau gets pulled off, and we have our new improved leader. And we actually have the wings are unified now, but that doesn't really help because they're not connected. So I can't shift troops between the two, but I can, I guess, use points from one wing or the other. It doesn't really matter. The amount of points that the British or the Allies have to spend, they're going to put a 24 bit in. And again, it's clear to me that the French can't get first jump. I'm not sure how helpful it is. This would have been the space where I would have hit. Yeah, it would have been pretty big if I could get an initial attack on there. But I look at the numbers, and there's really very little that the Allies need to do. They're beginning to get piles and piles of troops. It's looking like it's going to be hard to dislodge them from anywhere. And this is the situation we got in the game that I played opposed. Not this exact situation. I was up in here with the French, and with the Western French, and the Eastern French were pushing closer here. It wasn't as big a perimeter. But nearly the same amount of points. In terms of victory points, the Allies are holding this. This is a no man's land. The French can grab that for 2 quick victory points pretty easily. They can grab this for a point, but there aren't a lot of other points kicking around for them to take that are really available. If they breach this line, there's more there, but most of the points are kind of hidden away. Now the Allies still have here and here available to them. I haven't landed to take them. There hasn't been a need, and I kind of needed my troops. But at this point, I've got enough troops on the board that I can probably defend what I need to defend and make some landings, and I've got enough points to make those landings. Probably land here and start working towards getting somebody set up here as well. Whether or not I want to create a land bridge to these, certainly not out to here. It doesn't seem really worth it. The important thing is to hold the current line as well as I can, but dropping some crappy units off into these spaces for the 6 extra victory points seems worthwhile to prevent the French from getting the sort of marginal victory, which I think it's tough to get anything other than that. The Western territory, the Western Republicans had a humongous amount of points comparatively. I don't know if I took them all off for them because that seems too high at this point, but only sent a couple of attacks, 6 points or so, and I probably missed one payoff. Yeah, I think I missed a payoff. Anyway, I was able to launch quite a large attack from here by gathering up groups of over 20, because they can hold 30, and sending them into this space, which I think has a 25, or no, 20, so I could send them in 20 at a time. So I've got quite a big force here with some good leaders. Now that doesn't guarantee me anything in terms of forcing the enemy out. To a large extent, if I can't just pretty much overrun the enemy, and not through the actual overrun rolls, but in terms of, because the readout's here, that prevents that. But in terms of just, you know, blast them all out of the water or land, I'm not going to gain the territory. But with this many troops, maybe I can do that. Maybe this is weak. The other option, of course, is, hey, I could get that, you know, everybody retreats. But that's pretty rare. That's generally only on a 2, although over here for... No, that's the attacker retreats. Yeah, so the more sub-battles there are, actually, the more likelihood I have of forcing the entire force to collapse. Over here, I attempted another attack. I didn't send any leaders in. Probably don't need both of these here. If I've got somewhere else, I could send someone, send him there to help recover. I have another point left, which I could use to try to do some exploration. Maybe gain a space here or something. I was very short on points with the East. Oh, you know what? I did have the Western points because they have the Bonaparte points as well. Anyway, they're combined, aren't they? Jeez, I don't know if they are if I don't have them connected. I'm going to have to check that because so far I've got crap coming in here, and I could really use additional points to launch a big attack on this space as well, which I'd really like to do. Let me check up on that and see if I can use these excess Western points over on the East now, even though I haven't hooked them up yet. I vaguely remember that kind of prohibition from when we play tested it, but maybe it's been removed. I don't think it was ever actually in the rules. It may have been something we were testing out or something. I don't know. I can't find any indication in the rules of it. So yeah, I spent the rest of the Western points cramming troops into here. I'm spread pretty damn thin, so I don't think I want to spend my last point to try to get into here or something. It just doesn't look... No, I don't want to be spread there. I got too little everywhere. It just doesn't look terribly valuable to me. There's not much chance of the Allies getting up into here, but that's an auto win if they take it. So I want to make sure there's a couple of units there. Otherwise, I think we're set, and we got two huge battles. Either one can crack a line, and that should be interesting. And there's reinforcements awaiting in both cases. Sufficient reinforcements to make a difference, but I'm hoping to get kind of lucky and crack the lines in the first round or something. I don't know why, but I just always have tremendous optimism. A couple of things I want to note. First of all, being able to concentrate fully on the game is all the difference in the world. Trying to do this the way I normally do my solo games in the morning as I'm starting up work and I have to answer a couple emails and stuff while I'm loading up my machine and getting things ready, and that's just not working very well. But I'll probably have to go back to that after, towards the end of the game, but I'm hoping to get through most of it before then. Another thing, there was something else there. Oh yeah, not having the computer game preventing me from playing more than like a turn a day or whatever also helps. This game takes a lot of kind of focus and remembering where you've got points. Not mainly just because the fog of war type thing makes it very easy, and the rebalancing and all that. It's just very easy to forget what you've got set up where and why, and that can be very frustrating, as well as all the special cases and everything to the game. But there was something else I wanted to say, but I don't know what. Anyway, I'll take care of these attacks here. The other thing, and since I've forgotten it several times already to mention, I think in the opposed play, at least as the French player, I had this tremendous fear of the Allied units. Now, obviously, after you kind of play the game a little bit, even most of the way through that first game, you start to realize, they're really not capable of doing a whole hell of a lot. They launched an initial attack to try to get this early in the game. It was the multiplayer game, so we're talking turn 5 and 6 era period. That they were trying to grab the depot. I wasn't really involved in it, and I kind of thought, well, they have some significant offensive capability. They don't really. They have so many tiny units. All their decent stuff is tiny for the most part. They've got a couple of big, really lousy units, which add up to being in combat, because of the way the combat's evaluated. So this unit here, this is a 7, but it adds 0 to its combat factor. Whereas, let's take a look at the Spanish unit. This one's a 2 plus 3. That comes up to 5. Well, what about the 7? Well, only 5 of its strength are allowed to count. So it's just a 5, the same as the Spanish unit. Whereas the French units tend to be C rated. That gives them 2 morale. They have lots and lots of units that are size 5 or bigger, so they tend to have size, combat ability 7 for almost all their units that you wish to put into the line. One thing that's kind of weird is that you have to kind of balance between how big a unit you want to send in. So you don't want to send your really big units in, because the limit to how much you can send into a space is based on the strength again, but they don't have any more combat capability. So you end up like relying on your 5-2s or your slightly injured 6-2s to do all of the work in the game. And bigger units, even if they're quality stuff, you just can't commit them because they'll take up too much of the space on the board and not give you any combat capability for that. That's a little troubling in some ways. But you get kind of used to it, and I mean, you kind of forget about whatever the little niggling concerns that you might have about them. Anyway, onward we move. I just wanted to go into that because there's something, when I was sitting there as the French of, oh geez, can I afford to leave, just 2 decent sized units in a space? Yeah, I can, and to tell you the truth, I can afford to leave 2 weaker units in the space if I don't do it too often, because the Allies are almost incapable of launching a real attack. Bring something up, the Austrians, if they come in, they have the opportunity to come in from the land side of things, which could shake things up a little bit, but overall, that looks like a pretty iffy proposition unless the French have left some really vulnerable connection open for the Austrians to exploit. Otherwise, I think they'll just ship into Toulon, which they're also allowed to do, just like all the other troops. Because in the end, it's holding the harbor and the territory around it that's of any importance here. So this is kind of what a battle board looks like in a big battle. The Allies are in a lot of trouble here because they only have small units, like I talked about. They might have had a bigger unit in there, but they didn't. And with huge amounts of forces. So here we have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. And these are all coordination rolls were made, maybe not to the optimal level. This guy could only get 2 units. That couldn't be right. I don't know. I know Bonaparte succeeded. I probably have this here, which means my numbers aren't right. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 to 3, 4. That's going to get me a 3-to-1. I've bombarded the improved redoubt down to where it's only giving 1 shift. And I could actually throw more firepower in to get up to 4-to-1 here. I don't think that's necessary, though. Chances are I'm going to wipe this whole line out, because it's pretty damn weak. So I'm going to go with it as I am and not throw more firepower in. I've already got these 2 cannons coming in here. Right, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, yeah. So we have a pretty damn good chance of wiping them off the board. So that was a 1-round wipeout of all these forces. Now, although we caused all permanent losses and they caused nothing but temporary losses, and we took the area, we still caused the exact same number of losses because we just kept rolling things that gave us 1-1 or 1-2, but it didn't matter. There's only 1 hit on these units that could be taken. So this doesn't count as a major battle. It doesn't give us the significant victory, but it's a no victory point. But we do take the space, and that's kind of key because that breaches the line somewhat. That'll leave this here. However, we occupy the space, so it's not really useful to anyone right now. We could spend some operation points on another turn to degrade that, but right now it looks like we're going to try to come around and cut off, well, they don't really have supplies, but cut off their axe. They're getting supply off of this space here, actually. And that's where they were getting it before anyway. They weren't tracing back here. But it may just force the Allies to give up that line and fall back. It's hard to tell where. It's either here or here. Both are interesting choices. This one's kind of problematic because I can ship 20 units per attack command in, but there's more room to fall back, but I think I have to give everything up. I might try to hold this space for the 2 victory points, but that could end up causing me to have to do a naval retreat. And, it could be in a very risky position there. Now, over here, a first round of combat for the French that started to look kind of good. They killed a unit, they lost a unit to retreat, but that's okay. It looked like it was going to go okay. Allied reinforcements have significantly improved the situation for the Allies. Looks like the French are going to have to make some kind of lesser attacks. They may actually have to charge up some of these batteries. They got 2 of them already engaged in it to give them good odds, but they may have to throw another one in. The Allies have their 1 boundary here. They don't have to roll. Unfortunately, devoting my artillery to support this attack actually got a lot of my artillery out of place, so I couldn't hit the 9 table, which I would have been able to hit and still ended up at the 19 points instead, or close to it. Instead, what ended up happening is I fired on the 4 table over here, which is pretty crappy. Not that the 9's all that great, but and then I'm sorry, over on the petite rod, and on the grand rod, I had an extra point and an extra gun available, and took a pot shot there, which is almost impossible to hit with. I needed 2. Some good rally rolls though for the French, and we push the turn marker forward. We're getting close to the end here, and the French don't feel like they're anywhere near victory. Even with this push through, there's a lot to do yet. And this is one of the things I felt in the last time I was playing it, was this, oh my God, do I go for the grand victory by forcing the Allies out, either by getting this or getting this up and capturing one of these, which is tough. It really is. And that's kind of where I went by making this attack, is I'm heading in that direction. But I'm always torn by this. Or do I just go for, the probably pretty easy to get bombardment victory by forcing the Navy out of well, not out of, but by bombarding the petite rod for victory points and get some sort of, marginal victory off of that. It feels so cheap to go for the marginal victory, but in some ways I think it's probably the only real shot the French have. All right, this one goes up because it's gotten long enough, and we probably can finish up on the next big video.